Tonight, America mourns. Tributes pour in as the nation marks the passing of Jimmy Carter, the longest-lived US president at the age of 100. Deadliest crash. South Korea announces 7 days of mourning as investigations continue into a devastating Jeju air accident and claimed hundreds of lives. Visa dispute. President-elect Donald Trump joins forces with billionaire tech CEO Elon Musk in a public dispute over the use of the H-1B visa. A Christmas miracle. One family's Christmas wish answered as their missing dog rings the doorbell and returns home. All that and more as World News Tonight starts right now.
This is Derana World News Tonight. Reporting from Colombo, here's Aquil Qureshi.
Former US President Jimmy Carter has died aged 100. A Democrat served as the 36th president of the US from 1977 to 1981 and lived a politically active life as an ex-president for almost a half a century.
Former U.S. President and Nobel Peace Prize winner Jimmy Carter has died at the age of 100. He was born on October 1, 1924, and was one of 4 children of a farmer and a shopkeeper. He graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1946 and served in the nuclear submarine program, but left to manage his family peanut farming business. He married his wife Rosalind in 1946, a union he called, quote, the most important thing in my life. Together, they had 3 sons and a daughter. Carter had been a centrist as governor of Georgia with populist tendencies when he moved into the White House as the 39th U.S. president. He served from January 1977 to January 1981. His one-term presidency was marked by the 1978 Camp David Accords between Israel and Egypt, bringing some stability to the Middle East. But it was also dogged by an economy in recession, persistent unpopularity, and the Iran hostage crisis that consumed his final 444 days in office. He was swept from office in an electoral landslide in 1980 as voters embraced Republican challenger Ronald Reagan. Despite his difficulties, Carter had few rivals for accomplishments as a former president. He worked for decades on humanitarian causes and was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for his efforts to promote human rights and resolve conflicts around the world. In recent years, he had experienced several health issues, including melanoma that spread to his liver and brain. He died at his home in Plains, Georgia on Sunday, according to the Carter Center. Carter lived longer after his term in office than any other U.S. president. Along the way, he earned a reputation as a better former president than he was a president, a status he readily acknowledged.
Updates on the deadly plane crash in South Korea now. The country's acting president, Kyo Sang-mok, ordered an emergency safety inspection of the country's entire airline operations system as investigators work to identify victims and find out what caused the country's deadliest air disaster. A mourning period of 7 days has also been enforced.
After South Korea's deadliest ever air disaster, the country's acting president, Choi Sang-mok, ordered an emergency safety inspection of its entire airline operations system on Monday. That came as investigators worked to identify victims and find out what caused Sunday's Jeju Air plane crash, which claimed the lives of 175 passengers and 4 of the 6 crew on board. A large memorial was set up in a gym about 5 miles from the crash site at Muan, where people including Choi came to pay respects. Meanwhile, the Transport Ministry said it would inspect all Boeing 737-800 aircraft operated in South Korea and look closely into its maintenance management systems. Authorities have recovered the black box from the crashed Jeju Air jet and say the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board will be joining in the investigation. The aircraft, which was coming in from Bangkok, had belly landed, skidded off the end of the runway, and smashed into a wall. A Transport Ministry official said Monday that Jeju Air pilot had declared Mayday and reported a bird strike. He added there wasn't time after the warning to prepare for what came next.
If there had been more time, they could have requested preparation measures, such as dispatching fire trucks to stand by and preparing for an emergency landing. Typically, in such cases, the pilot makes this request and the control tower coordinates by placing firefighting teams on standby.
The crash killed mostly local South Koreans who were returning from holidays in Thailand. However, 2 Thai nationals also died. They include Jongluk Dwangmani. Her father Boon Choi spoke to local media Sunday and expressed his wish for his daughter to be brought home.
I can only accept it, make peace with it. When I think about it, I remind myself that it was an accident. It's something that can happen to anyone. So I've come to terms with it because no matter what I do, my daughter won't come back. I just hope the government can provide some help. I want to bring my daughter's body back home for a proper religious ceremony.
3 foreigners have died in a hotel fire at a popular tourist area in Thailand, the capital of Bangkok. Bangkok's Fire and Rescue Departments reported that the fire broke out on the 5th floor of the Ember Hotel on Sunday night.
The fire department reported 1 woman died at the scene and 2 men were pronounced dead in hospital. According to the fire authorities, 7 others are receiving treatment in hospital and the names and nationalities of the deceased were not immediately released. The hotel is located a short walk from Khao San Road, a popular nightlife area that draws backpackers from around the world. Bangkok Governor Chatchat Sitipun told reporters that there were 75 people in the hotel at the time of the fire and 34 people were rescued from the rooftop. The cause of the fire is still being investigated and the governor has ordered a citywide inspection of fire escape routes in hotels and entertainment venues.
Foreigners will be able to join the Australian Defence Force in a recruitment drive from January 1st. Americans, Britons and Canadians will be able to enlist in the ADF provided they've lived here for 12 months and haven't served in a foreign army for the past 2 years. Those who get in will have to apply for the Australian citizenship.
Incoming from the United States to Williamtown RAF Base. A trio of supersonic stealth fighters touched down to complete our fleet of 72 new F-35As. And now defence imports will extend from strike jets to soldiers, sailors and pilots. From January 1, Americans, Britons and Canadians will be able to enlist in the ADF, provided they've lived here for 12 months and haven't served in a foreign army for the last 2 years. Those who get in will have to apply for Australian citizenship, a pathway that's been open to New Zealanders for 6 months already. The invitation could soon be extended to Pacific Island nations as well.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. On the road to the White House now, President-elect Donald Trump sided with the billionaire tech CEO Elon Musk in a public dispute over the use of the H-1B visa, saying he fully backed the program for the foreign tech workers opposed by some of his supporters.
Trump, who moved to limit the visa's use during his first presidency, told the New York Post that he was a believer in the, quote, great program. His remarks followed a series of social media posts from Musk on Friday, who vowed to go to war to defend the visa program. Musk's post was directed at Trump's supporters and immigration hardliners, who have increasingly pushed for the H-1B visa program to be scrapped. On Friday, Steve Bannon, a longtime Trump confidant, critiqued big tech oligarchs for supporting the program and cast immigration as a threat to Western civilization. In response, Musk and many other tech billionaires drew a line between what they view as legal immigration and illegal immigration. The billionaire CEO has held an H-1B visa, and his company Tesla obtained 724 of the visas this year. The U.S. tech industry relies on the government's H-1B visa program to hire foreign skilled workers to help run its companies, a labor force that critics say undercuts wages for American citizens.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Russia is open to negotiations to resolve the Ukraine crisis, but he said such talks must address its root causes and reflect realities on the ground.
Lavrov stressed the need to ensure Ukraine's non-aligned, neutral and non-nuclear status to eliminate the long-term threats to Russia's security posed by West, including NATO expansion. He added Ukraine must take on specific obligations to ensure the rights, freedoms and interests of Russian-speaking citizens. Earlier, Ukraine's head of presidential office, Andriy Yermak, was quoted saying that Ukraine was not prepared to enter negotiations with Russia as it lacks sufficient Western support to engage from a position of strength. Lavrov also said Russia will not agree to mere postponement of Kyiv's NATO membership or to deployment of European peacekeepers to Ukraine, the two ideas reportedly proposed by advisors of the US President-elect Donald Trump as part of a potential peace deal.
Over in the Middle East now, rebel leader Ahmed al-Shahar has said the holding new elections in Syria could take up to 4 years. This is the first time he said on timeline for the possible elections in Syria since his group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham led a rebel offensive that ousted former President Bashar al-Assad.
Al-Shahar said yesterday that drafting a new constitution could take up to 3 years. He also said elections would likely to be held after 4 years because a new census is to be conducted to specify the numbers of eligible voters in the country, and any meaningful elections would require conducting a comprehensive population census. Al-Shahar further stated that Syrians would likely witness significant changes in their country in about a year. He said HTS, the most dominant military and political power in Syria, would be dissolved at a national dialogue conference. The comments from Al-Shahar came as the new government in Damascus seeks to reassure its neighbors of peace and stability in the multi-ethnic country. Meanwhile, nearly 300 people have been arrested in the past week in a crackdown of Assad loyalists, according to a UK-based war monitor.
Mikhail Kavalashvili has been sworn in as Georgian president in a ceremony in the parliament in the capital Tbilisi, amid weeks of protest and the refusal of his pro-Western predecessors to stand aside. Outgoing president said in a defiant speech to hundreds of supporters outside the presidential palace that she is leaving the president's residence remained as legitimate official holder of this place.
Flanked by the Georgian flag and the golden stars of the European Union, Salome Zurabishvili said she would vacate the presidential palace, but vowed to fight on.
I will remain with you whether I am inside the palace or outside the palace. This building belongs to no one. The palace will remain empty as long as there's no legitimate president. I am the legitimate president.
Outside the building, thousands of protesters gathered in support of the pro-European leader. While inside, her successor Mikhail Kavalashvili was joined by his family and sworn in behind closed doors, a first in the country's history. Kavalashvili, a hardline critic of the West and former football player, was appointed president by the ruling Georgian Dream Party in mid-December, after they came out on top in October's highly contested parliamentary election. But Zurabishvili and opposition parties deemed the results illegitimate and have refused to accept the outcome, calling for new elections. For the 2 months since, Tbilisi streets have seen often nightly protests from civilians who believe Georgian Dream rigged the vote. The government's subsequent crackdown, involving sweeping arrests, tear gas and riot police, further mobilised protesters, as did their decision to postpone EU extension talks until 2028. The Georgian Dream Party maintains that the election was free and fair and that Kavalashvili is the duly elected president.
The European Union's Common Charge Law came into force over the weekend, obliging manufacturers to adopt USBC chargers as a standard on most rechargeable electronic devices sold across the 27-nation bloc.
Now this means companies like Apple, which use different charging connector designs, will have to change the ports and cables on their products to USB-C. The law, which is the first of its kind in the world, was passed by an overwhelming majority in the European Parliament in October 2022. The EU's decision to standardize all chargers for electronic devices is expected to cut costs for consumers and waste from obsolete chargers. Now, while the enforcement began on Saturday, the EU said makers of laptops will have until early 2026 to follow suit.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. Tonight, we bring to you a story of Neo, the 5'6", 60-pound humanoid robot designed to tackle the everyday task we often find tedious. Currently being tested in Norwegian homes, Neo is built to walk or even run in situations called for speed. But don't put your feet up just yet. Neo still learns by observing humans. While it handles the dirty work, it could leave us more time for creativity and big picture thinking.
As concerns about AI grow, how about teaching a robot to do the mundane chores that humans don't want to do? That's exactly what's happening at 1X. This is Neo, a humanoid robot that was built to do the ongoing tasks people might find annoying. Neo's skills are being tested inside Norwegian homes. Standing at 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighing in at 60 pounds, this robot can walk or even run, depending on how urgent the task is. Even if you had a Neo at home, you aren't released from doing all of your chores yet. Neo learns by watching people.
Hey, could you and your friends tidy up here? We have some visitors coming.
Prior to Neo, 1X had a rolling robot named Eve. Eve gave them more knowledge to put into Neo. Unlike some AI tools, if Neo, Eve, and robots like them are doing all of our dirty work, then thinking, exercising creativity, and getting to rest are left to us.
And finally tonight, a heartwarming Christmas miracle unfolded when a dog returned home after being missing for 9 days. Brooke and her family, who had tirelessly searched day in and night and plastered missing posters around the neighborhood, thought they were always one step behind their beloved pet. But on Christmas Eve, their Ring camera captured an unforgettable moment. Athena, the German shepherd, ringing the doorbell to come back home.
The richest man in town.
Not since George Bailey returned in It's a Wonderful Life has there been a more heartwarming Christmas homecoming. And it all started with a knock on the door.
Hi, you are currently being recorded.
That's Athena, a German shepherd pressing the Ring camera just like a human at her home in Florida after being gone for 9 days. Brooke and her family put up this missing poster all over the neighborhood. Then early morning Christmas Eve, there's Athena, home at last. Son Liam got the news in the best possible way.
Well, that's all we have for World News tonight, but we'll meet you again on the 6th of January with more updates across the globe. But do stay tuned as we've got Sanvi Mudan-Naika joining you next on Nightly Business Report. I'm a corporation. Thank you for watching. Good night.